What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Pokeblock Podcast. We are having a real good time bringing on PokeTubers each week. It's been a ton of fun. Last week, we brought on Lumio's trainer, Zach, and we essentially discovered the secret of the Pokemon anime. That's a really good episode. You should check it out. We just had a great time. And today, I've got a very special guest to talk about I figured there's nothing really happening in the way of Pokemon right now. We're waiting for that Crown Tundra trailer to drop. So I thought it would be fun to just talk about some stupid, wild, crazy, funny Pokemon stories, memories, that type of thing that we have in our childhoods and our pasts, whatever. And I've brought on my good friend Kaycreigh to help me do that. So how the heck are you, Kaycreigh? Or Kaylin? How should I refer to you?
This is wherever the wind takes you, honestly. I'll respond to either. This
is like the most professional I've ever spoken with you.
I know, it's weird.
Because most of the time it's like, hey, check out this, like we just have terrible nonsense conversations. So this is going to be an adjustment for sure. I think
they're great nonsense conversations. I would like to amend that former statement that you made.
Oh, they are. I mean, they're great, but they're also nonsense a lot of the time too.
Yeah.
So
fair. I will concede.
So we'll see how we hold up here. But I mean, before we get started, as always, I do need to give a shout out and a thank you to the sponsors that make this show possible. So with that being said, today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. The team of professionals at the Tax Defense Group are passionate about helping taxpayers resolve their tax debt. Their services include basic tax preparation, tax audits, resolving large tax debt, and more. They actively represent taxpayers throughout the entire USA. If you need help resolving your tax issues, contact the Tax Defense Group. Call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973 to get started. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Writer Junkie. Are you thinking about starting a business or a side hustle? For all businesses to be successful, you need a website. Writer Junkie offers website development, content writing, and SEO services for business websites. So call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com. And just so you guys know, UCast Studios also has a website. You can look up all the shows and podcasts, and there's articles and news, and it's really great. It's awesome. So links in the description for that as well if you're interested. All right. So, Kay, my girl.
Yes.
So, like I said, the highlight here is crazy, funny, just stupid stories about Pokemon that you have, or memories, or whatever. Is there anything in particular that just jumps out of your mind when I bring that type of subject up? That comes up?
Yes, other than my dog hacking in the background. So if you guys are hearing that, she's fine. She's doing great. It's just a dog.
That's what we come here for. Dog hacking.
Yeah. But the one story in particular that I always think of when people talk about like horror stories or funny stories with Pokemon started with my first main series game. And for those of you who don't know me or my particular journey with Pokemon, I started watching the anime back with Gen 1 and loved it, but I didn't really grow up in a family that supported video games or anything like that. So I didn't get into playing the video games until I was older and could buy them myself. So my first main series game was Soul Silver. And I didn't know, I was on the fence about who I wanted to pick for a starter. I was pretty sure I wanted to pick Chikorita, but I didn't remember what the fully evolved forms looked like. So, I did what every normal kid would do and I went to the internet and I Googled, Chikorita line, the Cyndaquil line. And then I Googled Feraligatr. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the internet, sometimes people like to draw art of certain characters and give them appendages that you might not expect them to have at a young age. And needless to say, I cannot ever look at a Feraligatr the same way again. And always use safe search, guys. Search protected, all right?
I appreciate you wording it that way.
I didn't know if I could say certain things on your podcast, so.
Yeah, you did a good job. This is a family friendly thing, so
would like
good job.
Pokey PP be acceptable, or is that?
That is acceptable, but that's probably the line, I would say.
Okay,
that's
just censor me out anytime you need to throughout.
Oh
this
yeah,
podcast.
I can just include the bleeps. That's fine. That would be pretty hilarious. By the way, I didn't mention this probably because this this is just like such a regular conversation to me because we talk pretty frequently. But I failed to mention that you, Kaycreigh, are a streamer and YouTuber, for those that don't know. I'm pretty sure you do, so this is like a formality, but I wanted to put it out there. Kay is a beautiful content creator, and all of her stuff will be linked below, her YouTube and her Twitter, and she also does streaming on Twitch, so check her out. I felt like that was I think I missed that just because it was redundant, but I wanted
I was gonna say, no, I'm just kidding. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, so I don't have any, to your point, no, I've never been scarred by Pokemon before.
Just me? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's just you. I think that's probably my mom, thanks to my mom, though, because I didn't have access to internet, so I couldn't look up anything like that until I was a senior in high school.
What?
Because my mom, I've never told you that before?
No!
Yeah, I didn't have internet till I was a senior in high school. And it was because my mom was basically super paranoid and worried about the internet, that it was gonna corrupt us as children.
For good reason.
And
apparently.
I mean, technically, your story proves that positive. So
yeah, let me be a precautionary tale.
Yeah, I mean, I think that applies. I think that applies to you in more than just Pokemon. You help steer people in the right direction. You make the mistakes, so we don't have to.
Yep, guys, check me out on Twitch. I make the mistakes, so you don't have to. Oh my god.
Yeah. So, I mean, but in terms of one of my personal memories or stories or whatever, I feel like mine are a lot more wholesome. So it's a total, just complete 90-degree turn here. But one story that I have, I think I'll just start off with my best one, because I think this is probably the best Pokemon related memory / story that's ever happened to me ever. And I might have mentioned it somewhere sometime, but I can't recall it. So if you've heard it before, great, because it's a great story. It's worth hearing twice. Anyway, so around the time of Gen 3, when Ruby and Sapphire came out, like I told you, I did not have internet in my house, and we were in the early 2000s era, so it was getting news about video games was so hard anyway, especially when you're a kid and you don't even know how to begin to do that. So I was a Pokemon fan, but somehow the fact that Ruby and Sapphire was a thing completely just went over my head. I had no idea it existed until one day I was at family dinner at my grandparents' house, and my cousin's just chilling there playing Sapphire on his GBA, and I was it was such a shock to me. I was like, there's a new Pokemon game? What? And so my mind was effectively blown, and that Christmas, that year, I asked for a Game Boy Advance and a copy of one of the games. And I was very strategic about it too, because it was the year that the Game Boy Advance SP was out, and I thought to myself, if I ask for just a regular Game Boy Advance, I'll be more likely to get it because it's the older model. I was fine with that. I just wanted the game.
Right.
And so Christmas came, and not only did I get a copy of Pokemon Ruby, but I also got an SP. I don't know if my parents were just nice or they didn't know the difference, but I got that. So that was a super nice bonus for me, because it's technically not what I was expecting or asked for or whatever. And so I was just playing that game all day Christmas Day, and I took it to my grandparents' house because we went over there for breakfast or whatever, and I was playing it, and I played it so long that I had to charge the SP. It got low on battery, and so I was in my grandparents' basement. I went to this plug that was on like the far corner of the room, and I was just laying there playing it plugged into the wall and having a blast. Well, fast forward like 10 plus years later when Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire come out, and I get the game like on launch day, because at this point I'm super into Pokemon. This was in the relative infancy of my YouTube channel, but still like long enough that I was like following every detail, and I had to get the game right away, you know? So I had it as soon as it came out, but for whatever reason, my cousin, who was the one who had the game before me at the time, this time the roles were reversed, and I had the game right away, but he didn't. And so that was kind of interesting. And so I was kind of just like telling him how I liked the game and stuff, which is exactly what he did to me like a decade ago, which is really crazy in and of itself. But then eventually he gets it for Christmas, just like I did all those years ago. He got a copy of Alpha Sapphire, and at this time we were still doing the breakfast at Christmas morning at my grandparents' house. And my grandparents lived in the same house that they did when we were kids, when the first part of this story occurred. And so I'm just there having a good time. It's Christmas. I'm chilling, whatever. I ended up going down into the basement for some reason, just to kind of check things out, I guess. And I see my cousin there, plugged in to the wall, his 3DS charging in the same wall outlet that I had plugged mine in, and he was playing Alpha Sapphire, the same game that I was playing. And it was just like a huge deja vu type of thing with it was crazy that 10 years later, it was like almost looking back into the past. It was crazy.
That's so wholesome and like a wonderful story. And now I feel very bad that like you told this wonderful family story that like comes around. It's like a full circle moment. And I just talked about a Feraligatr.
You bleeped it yourself. Oh,
I know. I did the work for you.
You have, man, wow, that's fancy stuff. Holy cow.
I realized that I had it and I was like, wait, I can just do this.
You were just like,
anyway.
Don't get trigger happy now. Don't get trigger happy. I have to warn you about that.
I know. I'll only do it like a couple times.
That's fine. I like, nevertheless, I appreciate it. So you started with Gen 4, sort of, but you also kind of started with Gen 3, because I know you've said like your first game, like was your first like Pokemon game XD Gale of Darkness? That's
yes.
right.
Yeah, it was.
Right. So what do you have any like distinct memories of playing that as your first Pokemon game?
Well, really my entire experience with that was not knowing what on earth I was doing or what anything was. But I was obsessed with it. Like
Let me ask you this really quick. Mm-hmm. So like XD is obviously a GameCube spin-off. So
right.
How did that become your first game? Like, how did you come into possession with it? Like, did you ask, was it something you asked for, or did you just sort of happen upon it, or what's the story there?
So I had wanted a GameCube for a really long time because I wanted Animal Crossing that I had played over at one of my friends' houses genuinely years before I got it. And long enough had passed from the time that I decided I wanted a GameCube to the time that I actually got one, that they weren't even making GameCubes or GameCube games anymore. And so finally, like we went to the store, and the special edition XD Gale of Darkness GameCube that came with the game, I believe was like the only one that they had. And so by some twist of fate, I ended up with this amazing special edition GameCube and one of my favorite games of all time, when all I wanted was Animal Crossing. And
like why was that GameCube like the leftover? Just
I don't
the
know.
One just collecting dust. That's super funny.
I grew up in Oklahoma, and I can't say that the Oklahomies have the greatest taste. So I imagine that that's why it was left over.
Ooh.
No hate.
Sick.
Just a little
I don't even know what to say. I mean, you are from Oklahoma, so I suppose you can dish it.
Yeah, because I also love it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. So you played through the whole game at that point, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I was actually like, I don't know if you ever did this with console games, because I don't know if you kids know this, but on old TVs, you used to be able to go in and like press these buttons to like turn the brightness all the way down. And so I would sneak down to where there was a TV in the house at night, like in the middle of the night, and I would turn the brightness all the way down, and I would turn the volume all the way down, and I would sit like right next to the TV, and throughout the entire night I would just play XD Gale of Darkness because I was addicted to it. And then when the sun started to rise, I would turn it off and like run upstairs and crawl in bed and pretend like I had actually slept. Yeah.
That's amazing. I remember, so I didn't have XD Gale of Darkness or Coliseum like right away. I did end up getting Coliseum a little bit later, but it wasn't like when I was a kid. I think I was more like high school age at that time.
Right.
But my cousin did end up getting it relatively like around the time that it was out, and that game was like 50 blocks for a save file, I remember, which was huge for the GameCube. So much so that like if you had a small memory card, you could have one game saved on it and there wouldn't be enough room for Coliseum. So I remember him playing the game, and he had that problem. He didn't have enough room to save it. And so he would literally leave his GameCube on nonstop so he could keep his game intact. And I remember like just being in awe of that. Like I would never, like, I was just like so concerned for his GameCube.
That causes me stress.
Yeah, I was like worried it was gonna just like burst into flames.
Yeah.
The commitment was there. There was another. I never ended up beating Coliseum. I got to the. Have you played Coliseum, by the way?
I started Coliseum as a playthrough on Twitch because you gave me. I think it was your copy.
Yeah, you still have that.
Yeah.
You do. You have that.
I do, huh?
And if I'm remembering correctly, you also have my Wolf Link amiibo.
Yes. Yeah, that's in my background right now.
Please take care of those because I love them. So.
Yes, they're getting love. Like I said, they're in the background where they can be seen and appreciated by all.
Okay. I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind having those back at some point. So you're welcome to use them. I'm just saying. Take good care of them, please.
Oh, so don't like burn them or anything when I'm done with them?
Yeah, that would be one of the things not to do.
Okay. I'll make a mental note.
Yeah.
Just so I don't forget.
Yeah. But I wanted to bring this other thing up that you just reminded me of. It's not necessarily Pokemon, but I also remember this one summer I was playing Zelda Ocarina of Time, and there was basically just like, it was, in terms of games, just one of the most magical times I've ever had playing a game, because I went from being stuck on the game and not being able to get through it earlier in the year to it was like early summertime. I ended up getting a guidebook from my cousin who had played through the game, and he knew all the secrets, and he like told me about it. I was at his house one time, and it was just like mind-blowing to have just like all of it revealed to you. And then that allowed me to sort of get through the game, and just like watch it open up, which was insane. It was just I vividly remember my feelings of just awe. My jaw was dropped. I was speechless at what I was witnessing. And so I was making my way through the game at that point. And I remember one specific day where I had went to bed. I was staying at my grandparents' house because we were in the process of moving, but I had my Nintendo 64 with me, and I vividly remember just waking up, and the very first thing I did, just immediately out of bed, flip on the 64. I was playing on this like literally 10-inch maybe TV. It was one of the mini ones. And I'm pretty sure that is the most joyful and just peaceful feeling I've ever had in my life. Like true, genuine happiness, I'm not even joking, that I've ever experienced in my life. It was the peak of my childhood.
There is something magical about that time before data mining and before all of that, when like video games seemed like they really were magic and you never knew when like the surprises were going to stop, or when you were going to find something secret or whatever. And I yearn for those times, really. I mean, I have no self-control, so I look at all of the like leaks and everything as soon as they come out, but I miss the times when I didn't know what the heck I was doing and would accidentally stumble into something wonderful.
Yeah, like I remember it's kind of interesting because my memories of playing Pokemon early on are more fleeting. Like I only remember the things that really stuck out a lot. And I don't know why that is. It's just obviously like when you're young, you remember some things and you don't remember certain things. Right. But one of the things I do remember was, speaking of just like stumbling upon things, was coming upon Red in Gold and Silver and battling him. And like I don't remember anything about like getting to that point. All I remember is sort of exploring Mount Silver and just going through all the nooks and crannies, and then I got to the last room where he is. And the interesting thing is like you go from, it doesn't really look like it when on the original Game Boy version, but when you find Red, he's actually like at the top of the mountain, like outside. And in the room before it, you're supposed to be, it's sort of like an interior type location because it's all dark and stuff. And so I went from that room where it was dark to the area where Red is, and all of a sudden it's lighter. And it was such a contrast. And so to me, in my little kid head, I was like, ooh, like this seems like an important room. I wonder what's going to happen. And so I walk up that narrow corridor, that narrow path, and I see him at the top. And at this point I was like unsuspecting. I go to him, I click on him, and when he turns around, like that was one of the genius things about it, is he was facing away from you. So he turned around, and I immediately recognized the sprite because I had played Yellow before, and I was just like, wait a minute. And then the music starts, and it's just the super intense, like, da, 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 and you're just like immediately, as a 7-year-old kid, just like, oh my gosh, like you're ready. It's so intense. And then when it was Red on the screen, I actually thought it was Ash, because obviously like the whole, like Red and Ash are basically the same. They're counterparts to each other. Right. But I didn't know that Red's name was Red. And so I took it to be, at the time, that it was Ash, especially because he led with the Pikachu. And so even though I was wrong in that sense, I was still just like, oh my gosh, this is Ash. Like I was just flipping out. And it's another one of those moments that's just, that will forever be burned into my memory, because it wasn't like the joy, happiness type of thing I described previously, but right. It was sort of just like gripping intensity that was just, it was just so much fun to be able to experience something like that, like in the moment. Like I was able to sort of do it like as that game was, I guess, new, and I didn't like sort of go into it after the fact when I had found out about it. It was just completely authentic, and it was awesome.
I just remember getting absolutely destroyed by that man. And Soul Silver, obviously, but he blew me back.
I mean, I imagine he probably beat me too. Like, I can't remember how that battle ultimately went. Everything after, like, meeting him was a blur. Yeah. But it was, I mean, the other thing that was cool about it was the fact that his Pokemon were so strong. Like, you were used to, like 60s at the most being, like, the toughest. And if you got to 70, it was like, oh my gosh, like, this guy's strong. But then he comes out in... the levels are different between Soul Silver and like regular Silver, but he came out in Silver with a level 81 Pikachu, and I was just like, 80 and oh, Like, I wish there's not a lot of things that I genuinely can't describe with words to people that I've experienced myself. That's one of the things, like that feeling of just he comes out, like you see him, you recognize him, you realize that, I mean, I guess in my case it was Ash Ketchum, but it's red, it's you from the previous game, and then he drops a level 81 Pikachu on you. That sequence of events, I can't even describe with words the just intensity and enjoyment and the mind-blowing just ridiculousness that was at the time. Well, is there any other like specific thing? We're sort of getting close to our time, but we've got a little more time for like maybe one or two more stories. So is there any other specific thing that you can recall that you enjoy?
Well, I think that probably my coolest Pokemon story, which I've told multiple times, but I think it's worth telling again, is the tale of the two shiny Shinxes. So back in, I feel like all of my big Pokemon memories were Soul Silver, but that's just because it was brand new and that was my first ever main series game. But I was under the impression that you could find all of the Pokemon in the Pokédex if you just looked hard enough, and if you ran around in the tall grass long enough, you would just encounter all of them. So I spent genuinely hours in the tall grass in Soul Silver. And one of the times I ran into, and bear in mind, I had not seen, outside of like what you see in the playthrough, I had not seen Gen 4 Pokemon at this point. And I ran into a Shinx, and I remember thinking that it looked different than the other Shinx that I had run into, sparingly throughout looking in the tall grass before. And I thought that I saw it make some sort of like sparkle animation when it showed up. And so in my mind, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm gonna catch it just in case. Which, like, thank goodness that I did. Because as it turns out, I randomly found a full odds shiny Shinx just in the middle of nowhere for no reason in Soul Silver and didn't even know what it was. And then fast forward to, many years later when I had started my YouTube channel and decided to play Soul Silver as my first Nuzlocke Let's Play. And I don't know if it was in the same place, but for the sake of the story, let's say same patch of grass. I don't know. I was looking for an encounter on that particular route for the Nuzlocke, and lo and behold, another full odds shiny Shinx just shows up in the middle of a playthrough. Gen 4 odds. And like, wow. I lost it to the point that I had to stop recording and take a second and like happy cry, come back and finish recording the episode. But I don't know. I think that the Shinx gods have smiled down upon me. I've now caught my third shiny Shinx in the DLC for Sword and Shield. And
wow.
Yeah, I had to go for it. Did you hunt
for that one?
I did.
Okay.
I had to. I was like obligated by the universe at that point.
That's super cool, especially like in the same spot and everything. That's awesome. It's super weird. Like, it's interesting, but also weird at the same time hearing people's like shiny stories, because that's such a huge thing for so many people. Like they have experiences like you did where they just randomly happened upon one. Well, for me, admittedly, I've never actively like hunted a shiny before. Just because it's never been like, I guess, the thing that I play Pokemon games for. But other than obviously like the red Gyarados, I did not run into a shiny in the wild until it was either Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun and Moon, one of the two, when I found a shiny Execute. That was the first time I'd ever just found a shiny in the wild.
Oh, nice.
It took me that long. And I think that's so funny because it just kind of goes to show that everyone's experience is so wildly different, where you have this like crazy story involving shinies and I'm just like, I've been playing Pokemon for 20 years, and it took me about 20 years to find one.
Well, some of us just aren't lucky. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, the Shinx gods or the shiny gods or whoever they are, yeah, they don't bless me as much as that you do.
They only favor
it's kind
some.
of I think it's like a age before beauty type of thing, or something like that.
Hang on, what? What are you trying to say?
Hey, you technically are older than me, so that's not a lie.
I don't know about that one.
What? Yeah, whatever. I mean, you get the idea. You get the idea.
No, I am 3 billion years old.
Ah, yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you're the best 3 billion year old that I've ever seen. Like,
Thank you.
You hold up really well. You must be taking some like special classes or something.
Yeah, my best friend used to be a dinosaur. Miss that guy a lot.
Man, that was a good 5th grade level joke.
Thank
And with
you.
that, that's about all the time we have, because we're about to go in a direction that
Going out on
podcast
such a
just
weak
can't handle.
joke.
Do you have any other jokes you'd like to say before we leave?
How about that airplane food? No?
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna end. But seriously, thank you, Kay, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely lovely to have you. Please, if you haven't seen Kay or checked her out before, check her out with the links in the description. You won't regret it. I certainly haven't, ever. And with that being said, if you're new to the podcast as well, be sure to obviously do the follow thing and whatever, like, comment, let us know your thoughts, all that good stuff. And we'll be back next Friday as usual with another awesome podcast and another great discussion to have. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and just know that we love you. And until the next one, as always, I'll smell you guys later.